Hey everyone, and welcome to Meta. Yeah, I know it's been a while, but I've been busy, so this is what you get. Here we are. I have three wonderful guests with me here today, Morrow, Harstem, and Xenocider, and we're going to talk about the new balance patch, we're going to talk about the maps, and whatever else comes to mind. So, Xenocider, what time is it where you are? You're quite manly to be on here right now.
It's 9:33 a.m., but I didn't sleep last night, so
Oh,
yeah.
I get up at like 8 a.m. every day. Never mind. I thought that you were like
Yeah, it's not
doing
in the
me a
middle of the night.
6 solid being on here at 6 a.m. or something. Well, hope you enjoy. Harstem, how's it going for you?
Good. Just came back from ATC finals that I
Yeah.
casted with Calder yesterday. It was fun. I'm doing
Oh,
fine.
good, good. And Morrow, we haven't heard from you in a while. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you.
Yeah, that's good. I'm really glad to have Morrow on the show, by the way. This guy, out of every pro gamer, talks and thinks about maps, I think, more than anyone. In fact, designed a lot of maps, so should be pretty good to have you on here. So let's go ahead and start talking about this balance patch. Okay, let's talk about the Widow Mine first. I want your guys' impression. Of course, we have two Terrans, so that's pretty helpful here. And obviously, for you guys that don't know exactly what the patch change was, the splash radius is now 1.75, and there are no longer 50% or 25% damage zones, and the splash damage is now 40 plus 40 to shields for the entire radius. So, your guys' thoughts on this change? What do you think?
I was pretty damn surprised when I saw it. Like, first they announced, maybe I should close my window actually. Could you hear that?
No.
That was like some cars or something. Anyway, they announced first a patch with Widow Mines with like a small buff to the radius on all of them. But then they changed their mind and said like, no, that's not enough, or it was too good against probes. And then afterwards they released a new change instead. That was like, the new patch is gonna be like it used to be back in before winter when they first nerfed the mines. So these mines are like the mines we had before, and those were too strong. Except that these new mines are even better against Protoss.
All
So
right.
it's like he said the mines were too strong, so he nerfed them, and now he's buffing them to the point where they're better than they were before. So it surprises me quite a bit. That doesn't make sense at all to me.
Okay. Xenocider, does it make sense to you?
Well, I think it's pretty interesting because originally Widow Mines I think were too strong back when Innovation was using them to like win every single game in like every single TVZ ever. But after some time, like even before the Widow Mine was nerfed, some people were learning how to deal with it. You know, sending Zerglings in beforehand to detonate the mines. So, like for instance, the DRG versus Innovation match was a great example of like a great TVC where before the patch where DRG was able to beat Innovation in a long macro game. But actually, funnily enough, Terran started adapting to Zerg's learning how to adapt to the Widow Mines. So it's kind of like a back and forth thing. And now I think with the Widow Mines coming back in full force, I'm not sure if it's going to be too strong for Terran. It's like a very thin line that we have to tread here. Since it's so new, it's not exactly easy to see, but a lot of Zergs have been talking about like the strength of the new Widow Mine, perhaps being too strong.
Okay. And Harstem, your thoughts on this change?
Well, in TVP, Widow Mines aren't really used except after the initial drop. So instead of losing 5 probes, you now lose 8 or 9 probes, which is annoying. But in general, Widow Mines should never really be able to make it to the mineral line anyway, unless Protoss messes up. I don't think it impacts our matchup too much. They already killed Zealot High Templar openings with the shield damage buff, so I don't think it really matters in TVP.
Do you think there might be a resurgence of that like Marauder Widow Mine based style that we saw for like, I don't know, 3 weeks in Korea or something like that?
Might be. You would have to scan a lot for observers though, because if they just play Blink Colossus and they have observers, like you just shoot your Widow Mines and you die. I'm not a big fan of the Widow Mine against Colossus in general.
Yeah, that's pretty much why it went away anyways, when it did start popping out in Korea. So I guess let's talk about the TVZ ramifications a bit more. If Harstem's thinking it's not really going to affect versus Protoss that much, it's kind of funny because all the Terrans that were like knocked out kind of recently, well, not all, but a huge majority of them were to Zerg. So is this the right path to go down to help out in that matchup? Do you guys think?
In my personal opinion, I think Widowmines were in a semi-good place before this buff. It was like very hard to say if Hellbats were better or if Widowmines were better. So I think they were in a good place. The reason why Terran has been losing to Zergs a lot, I think that's like something else revolving around late game and whatnot, or against all-ins. I don't want like Widowmines to be the unit that you make all the time against everything, and to have like that unit being super overpowered, and that's why the matchup is balanced, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. No.
But it definitely helps. I can already say from my game so far that the Widowmine is helping already.
Okay.
Well, I don't know. I always felt, well, personally for me, I always felt like the Widowmine was better than the Hellbat. There was a period of time where people started going Hellbats more often, like especially Tasia in some DreamHack tournaments started using Hellbats a lot more than Widowmines. But like after that period of time passed, you saw just a lot of people going Widowmines, even though they were like in a nerfed kind of state. And what we ended up seeing was the Zerg would just kind of turtle for a really long time and then make over 100 Banelings and then just completely roll over the Terran army on or off creep. And then like the Terran doesn't really have any counterplay to that, because even if the Terran is like maxed out, like they have no real way to deal with more Banelings than there are Marines, because there wasn't any really good AoE attacks. So I felt like this Widowmine change was a good change in the right direction if you want to follow like David Kim's design philosophy of having like, asymmetrical balance during the times of the games.
Okay. I mean, that makes sense. Morrow, you have anything to say about that point with the asymmetrical balance? It sounds like something that would make you angry.
Well, asymmetrical imbalance is fine as long as you can equalize it and give it a good chance for the other races to win before certain time periods. For example, mech in any matchup, in my opinion, should be the strongest. Like if you reach a certain amount of mech and you split the map, you should win the game. And that to many people might sound like, well, that sounds very imbalanced, but that's how it was in Brood War. But in Brood War, the matchups could remain. Well, I'll just call Brood War balanced now, just for the sake of it, and say the Zerg had a good chance, like for the entire game, to prevent Terran from splitting the map, so the matchup would even out anyway. That Zerg could have so many tools to prevent that from happening. So I think asymmetrical imbalance is actually something that's fine in an RTS game.
All right, makes sense. Jumping back to the point you made earlier, Xenocider, about specifically that game DRG against Innovation, because I think that is like the perfect example. Is he actually took on Innovation during Innovation's prime? Like I guess that game was the beginning of his downfall, like where he stopped winning everything. And it was like a ridiculous macro series. The one that I really remember was the Whirlwind one, where it was like DRG tooth and nail fought against Innovation this was with the old Widowmine, right?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. So, then they nerfed it because, the Terrans were doing very well, specifically Innovation doing the best. And now it's come back up. Now, was this just like, was it nerfed for a learning period for Zergs, where it was like not quite so hard to deal with, not so, ridiculous for them to, because like when you're learning on the fly, like this brand new thing against the full damage, the Zergs are getting more frustrated, where you're seeing a lot of Roach all-ins and stuff like that. But when it got nerfed, we saw more Ling Mutabane, and then eventually Zergs got very good against Widowmines, and now it's gone back. Is this like, you know what I mean? Is this what was done? Is this the right way to do it? Like, make it easier for a bit so people figure it out, or I don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say, honestly. I think like definitely the game has changed so much in the past few months where like if the Zergs were doing the builds that they are doing now and they were doing them back then they would have a significantly easier time. But like the ultimate problem is at the beginning of basically every one of these expansions, Zerg is gonna have a rough time for a long time. In addition to not just the Widowmine strength at that time, but like Zergs also had to figure out how to deal with like the Hellbat drops, which had the potential to just end games in like the first like 5 minutes or something like that. And honestly, Zerg had to deal with a lot of things all at one time, and they had to figure out how to survive, and they also had to figure out how to do, how to play the most economically. So it's really hard to say whether David Kim's approach to like remove one of the threats to give them some more time is a good idea because I feel like the hardship that the Widowmine created back then, like we could see that the Zergs were already getting to the point where they could be able to combat it. I felt like at that point it would have been better to just let the Zergs, figure it out because they were already so close. But then like since they were already so close, and then you nerf the Widowmine, it kind of created a state where like the Terran became a little bit underpowered.
But
Yeah,
isn't that what they kind of? Oh, sorry.
you go ahead.
Isn't that what they try to do in Wings? Just kind of wait for someone to find a magical solution, and then after like a year of Infestor Broodlord in every matchup, it was like, there's no actual solution. Let's nerf it now, and then it was a little bit too late.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the difference is here though that like we can see the progress. Like back in the Infestor Broodlord days, it honestly looked like nothing was changing. If you watch the games, there was basically no headway being made. The Terrans would come up with basically new all-ins to prevent the Infestor Broodlord from coming. But if you watch the games when Innovation was playing, from the beginning of Innovation's run, it looked like he basically could not lose at all. Like the games would just end in like 13 minutes. He would just kill the 4th base, and then that would be it. But like as time progressed, you could tell that the Zergs were trying out new builds that were like long-term builds, and they were getting better and better at doing it. And all they needed was a little bit more time, like which was like a really big stark contrast to what it was in Wings of Liberty, in my opinion. So it's a case by case thing.
Yeah. Some smart opinions here. Morrow, what were you going to say?
I can't quite remember. I just want to say I think that the first time they nerfed Widowmines, that Xenocider is very correct. They had to deal with the Hellbats being so strong, and there were so many ways to kill Zerg, and Zerg is always going to be the defensive race. So whenever something new happens, Zerg is going to be the one dying in the beginning to all these new things, and then they figure out slowly how to defend each and every one of the new all-ins. So I feel like Zergs were kind of learning in the end how to defend against the Widowmines, and the game was starting to look pretty balanced after the Overseer nerf, at least in my opinion. And then they nerfed the Widowmines, and after that, I think Terran just went on a downfall from there. But that's just my opinion.
Okay. And one quick last thing about Widowmines to you two Terran guys. Do you agree with Harstem that the Widowmine change doesn't make a big difference against Protoss?
I think like I think it doesn't make a big difference because they were already strong enough to kill High Templar play. So, like now it's even more not viable. So no, not really a difference.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe at lower levels, because at lower levels you have the Widowmine drop coming in, and that has the potential to kill the entire mineral line. Or sometimes even in like pro games, we saw like Flash vs Terminator, like the entire mineral line died. But supposedly at a professional level, whether the Widowmine is like buffed or nerfed, if it goes into the mineral line and gets good shots off, like
the game is over.
Yeah, the game is over. So it won't really. Like, it could have infinite radius, really. I mean, you just have to prevent it from going down.
I'm not sure about that one.
Burrow in your main base and scan their mineral line, and they are done, man. Okay. All right, so everyone kind of agrees on that piece of it. Kind of interesting about the Widowmine coming back exactly to where it was in TVZ. But another change that specifically targets TVZ, I would say, is the new Thor, where it's just kind of like auto-targeting flying units over ground units. What do you guys think about this one? Is this hurting your carrier rushes, Harstem?
Well, I must say that every time I play Goody now and I do my Tempest switch, that it's become a lot harder because instead of focusing down the Immortals with his Thors, my Tempest are being shot down. But I'm still doing fine against him in general, so
Okay.
Can't complain.
All right, good thing. What about you, Terran nerds? How is this doing for you? Do you think this is a good change to help out against those mutas?
I definitely think so. Like before the patch, they were always like attacking Zerglings or Banelings, and you had to always target the mutas for them to attack the mutas because the Zerglings and Banelings were always closer. But the problem with the Thors attacking ground units is that they have this kind of attack animation that makes them not attack unless the unit survives for a little bit. But the Marines were shooting down the Zerglings and Banelings so quickly that the Thor would just bug out and not attack at all if you actually watch replays closely. But of course, regardless of that, you still want them attacking the Mutalisks because they do bonus to light and the splash damage and whatnot. So I think it's just an overall buff against Zerg, and I like it a lot because like you have to spend so much time microing your bio units to run around and split your Marines. So the TVC micro is already hard enough that making the game easier to micro is fine in this case.
Okay. Yeah, I think Morrow hit it on the head right there because I think this change is more of a quality of life change for Terran. Most of the time in Korea, or even basically anywhere, if you want to deal with 40 plus mutas and you have 3 Thors, you're gonna have to target the mutas with your Thors anyways. So now that they've patched it so that the Thors automatically target the mutas, it just makes it a little bit like a quality of life change, so that you don't have to manually do that while you're splitting your Marines and microing your Hellions and whatnot. But something that was actually kind of interesting is that Terrans in Korea now are starting to shift away from Thors, especially players like Tasia and Polt and others. They're going with a pure Widowmine style now. So it's kind of funny because a few months ago people were going Thors every game, but now kind of people think that Thors are a little bit too slow now, so they're just going with pure Widowmine. So maybe it won't do so much at the current metagame.
Okay. I basically agree with exactly what you just said there. Do you think that this Thor change is going to help out Mech at all for the specifically TVZ matchup? Does it really make any changes for that?
I think if in early mid game, there's Mutalisk Roach timings against Mech, where you have 2 to 4 Thors and there's some Mutas Roaches on 3 base. I think that's gonna be make it just harder because the Thors will deal more damage to the Roaches, whereas the Mutas are tanking for the Roaches in that specific case. And targeting Roaches with Thors might be very awkward. So I think it's gonna make it harder.
Okay.
Like Thors, you don't really want to attack Broodlords with Thors. Look, to be honest, I'm not sure. In what other situation it would change or something. I'm not sure.
All right. I kind of miss Harstem, so let's talk about the third balance change here. The Protoss one, Mothership core and the time warp duration decreased from, is it 30 to 10 seconds now?
Yeah, 30 to 10.
Wow, that's fast.
I don't know what David was thinking with this one, all right? Because they first said it was going to be 20, right? They were 20.
And then they said 15, I remember.
Yeah, they changed it a lot. I don't like it, but actually, it's okay. The only times we really used it for the full duration was in PvZ all-ins, in PvP battles. But in PvP battles, it was more something to zone the army away with. You would put it there and he couldn't walk there or he would die. And in PvT, it's very strong against SCV pools, where you just put it on the ramp and you buy yourself another 30 seconds. And then you put another one and you just bought a minute for free. So I think it makes sense that the change is there. Of course, I don't like it because I'm a Protoss player. I rather would have not. But it's not like I'm going to lose, 20% or even 5% extra games because of it. I think win rates aren't going to change because of a nerf like this. SCV pools will be a bit stronger, all-ins a bit weaker, that's it.
Okay. That sounds like a good thing to me. What do you Terrans think here?
I think time warp is stupid, so I think it's a good change. I mean, it's so strong. 30 seconds for like it used to be crazy good. They have nerfed time warp 2 times now, and it's been like overpowered for over a year. So I'm happy it's nerfed a lot now. 10 seconds is very reasonable for an upgrade that you get in early game without needing a research. I don't think the win rates will change a lot because 10 seconds is enough for a battle anyway. But Harstem is right. Like SVs is a very real thing. It is very hard to stop, and time warp is essential to delay an SV all in or an SV pull. So I don't know if that's going to become too strong or not, but we'll have to wait and see.
Okay.
I've kind of been of the opinion that like the time warp change like doesn't really address like the like what you would want to change if you want to make time warp rework, because in StarCraft 2 I feel like the engagements are so fast that the immediate impact is what's really important. So like the second the time warp goes down, the Terran's like unable to micro anymore for that like really small duration, and if that's going on during a crucial fight like a TVP engagement, then that's the 10 seconds is pretty much all you need. Like pretty much the first 3 seconds is all you need. But for the cases of like denying the SCV pulls, I feel like those come down to like builds anyways.
You can win a lot of time with time warps. Imagine Overgrowth, you want to go up the main ramp and there's a time warp. You can't really go up anymore. It's very easy to pull back your Colossi against Vikings then, because the bio can't really attack your Stalkers.
Well, I mean, at the same time though, you could just use like force fields as well.
Yeah, but normally you don't have the gas for a lot of sentries.
Well, you would only need to put down like 1 or 2 force fields. You don't need to like wall off the entire thing, because
yeah, but
then
you still
they would
need
have to...
a lot of builds revolve around just having 1 sentry for a very long time to get all your gas upgrades in time. I think time warp was very helpful against SCV pools. I don't think they'll be very overpowered because, like you said, force fields is also a good solution, but it's just gonna be a bit harder.
Yeah, definitely gonna be a bit harder.
Okay. Is this a good change overall, do you guys think?
I think so.
A net positive?
Well, like, it kind of comes out of nowhere, to be honest. I wasn't really complaining about time warp, but I guess I'll take it. Like, just like,
Yeah.
man, David Cameron really can't take this time warp anymore. Like, I guess it's cool.
Yeah,
I guess.
of course.
How many more times do you guys think that the Mothership core will be nerfed in some way? I'm just wondering, throughout the lifespan of StarCraft 2.
I think we're gonna get a buff. It's gonna be quicker soon, man. Just like the Oracle. Like, a bit quicker, better scouting.
Sick.
Some harass. I like that. No, I don't know. I think we're done with the nerfs now, to be honest.
Think so?
They might put one more nerf on overcharge, make it like reduce the time to like 45 seconds or something like that. But on the other hand, you really do need it against a lot of Terran pushes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So, like overall, the patch, did this actually address the things that are going wrong balance-wise in StarCraft 2? No, Harstem? What? Explain.
I think Terran wasn't really struggling in the mid game. The only reason why Terran was kind of struggling in the mid game is because they wanted to finish it before the late game. Because I don't know a lot of Terrans that like playing late game. Innovation yesterday said that he likes playing late game, but I'm not sure if he's lying. Or 2 days ago. And there's been like a few more Terrans that say it's kind of okay, but I feel like for PvT, late game is definitely in favor of Protoss. I think numbers back me up there as well, and all they did is kind of buff SCV all-ins. It seems like they're just trying to balance statistics rather than balancing the actual game. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of that.
Okay. Morrow?
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Like, I really want to play late game against Protoss. I really want mech to be viable. I really want to, like, Protoss is expanding, I'll expand, I'll do this, do that, but I've just given up on that. Like, TVP can be a nice matchup. You try to harass, you try to do stuff to, like, help your SV all in. but eventually you're just gonna say, okay, I have to go now. I can't delay this anymore. I have to go. This is my timing, and I have to go kill Protoss. And that's how I play TvP, even though like that's not the play style that I prefer. But that's what TvP is about most of the time. Like you have to go kill Protoss in a very even match. Not in every game, but in most cases.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not really sure. I've heard a lot of Koreans actually say that they're confident in late game TvP, but I haven't really seen it demonstrated that much. For instance, Cure, he was the rank 1 GM on ladder in Korea server last season, and he said that he was confident in Korea's or in late game TvP. So I'm I'm of the impression that late game TvP isn't that bad for Terran. It's just extremely hard to control because like Sorry?
Sorry, I shouldn't have said. Go on.
Oh, well, anyways, like the Terran army is really going to be on the defensive for the most part of the time because the Terran army is like really immobile because late game Protoss has the power of war prisms and being able to split off units, but as Terran, you really want to keep your army all together, like your Vikings, your Ghosts, and your small amount of bio. You want to keep it in like one group, whereas like Protoss is a lot easier time to split it up. So I feel like if you're Terran and you can manage all of the multiple assaults at the same time and then like maintain really good army and vision control, then it might be possible to do the late game, assuming you have some sort of advantage coming from the mid game through your attacks. But of course, that would take a lot more, like a lot more videos from the Koreans, honestly, because I don't really see a lot of Koreans play late game TvP, despite them describing it as not that bad.
Yeah, I think Teja likes to go for it, like, or at least he tries to go for a bit longer games. His control is very good, but he doesn't play turtle style. Like he'll keep on attacking over and over, even with Ghost Viking. He'll be very aggressive, putting a lot of pressure on the Protoss fort, just to make sure that the Protoss never really stabilizes and gets like 10 cannons up, 15 High Templars spread all over the map, and then I think it's that point when Protoss has like map control. They have like cannons everywhere at every base, like a High Templar at every base, and they can get to Tempest freely. It gets very difficult for Terran. However, if Terran manages to deny all the Protoss harass, gets to Raven, I think, and like goes nuking and shit, I think it can be quite strong. I played against some quite good Terrans lately, and I still win most of the late games, but it's actually been getting a bit harder because it used to be so free win. Like three months ago, you just literally like run a few zealots in, then they would run in your storms with the Vikings, 7 Colossus, killing the Ghost. Life was good back then, but now it's been getting a bit harder. So I'm not sure. Like I'm so scared that if they will buff something, like to make Terran way better, that they won't reverse it quickly if it seems to be too strong. And that's the thing with Blizzard, because they act so slowly. It's very scary if there's big patches coming. But on the other hand, you kind of want to see what they do as well. I rather would have that they would like approach it with lots of small changes all the time, or no changes at all for a very long time. I don't know.
Yeah, I
that made
do
any
agree
sense,
with
but-
that. No, I like what you're saying about the actual approach to balance patching. Like, I think overall they've done a good job with balance patches with StarCraft 2. It's a pretty balanced game, and it actually has been, despite what people will tell you. Just if you look at results, I guess. But yeah, I like a lot of little tiny changes or very slow changes. Like, for instance, what we were talking about before with the Widow Mines. The Widow Mines are just back against Zerg exactly to where they were right when DRG had figured it out. So it's like, well, what was all that time in between? You know, what is that time in between? Is that where we lost all the Terrans in GSL? You know, like, what was that for? So I do agree with you guys on that. Any final thoughts on the balance patch before we go on to maps? We good on the balance patch? Not the most exciting balance patch, to be honest. I miss the days of the bunker being changed.
Me too.
All right. time to talk about maps, and I want to do it a little bit different this time because what always happens is new maps come out, meta comes on, and we talk about the new maps. But I actually want to start out talking about the maps that stayed just a little bit because that's something that we never really do, or I never really see people like after like these maps are figured out. Everyone's played a million games on these. We've all seen a million games. So I just want to kind of get your guys' thoughts on the 3 maps that actually stayed in the pool, which are King Sejong Station, Overgrowth, and Merry-Go-Round. And I guess let's start with Overgrowth. You know, I've heard it described as like the most standard map, the macro map. What do you guys think about this map overall? And one of the points that I actually was thinking about that's kind of interesting to me is, you know, it has that gold base, and a lot of times maps with gold bases are very gimmicky, like Habitation Station, where it's like, well, this is the focal point of the map. There's gold base. Whereas on Overgrowth, we don't really see the gold base taken that often. So like, do you like the way the gold base is on here? Is it unneeded? Is this the way gold bases should be? Should they be like Habitation Station? Anyways, that's like a hell of a lot of questions. So what do you guys think about Overgrowth?
Should I start?
Yeah, please.
All right. We're going to do it. Well, I'm going to do it matchup for matchup. Overgrowth in PvP, I think, is a fun map. You can play Blink, like you have the little thing where you can still blink into the main base, but it isn't extremely good, like it was on Heavy Rain, for example. So it shows a lot of variety in PvP. That's quite an easy third base, so we tend to see longer games on the map, I feel like, as the lanes are very well stoppable. So I like it in PvP. In PvT, with 4 observers placed defensively, you can see anything coming to your main base, up your natural ramp, and to your fort. But because you normally only get 3 observers defensively, and then 1 at the Terran base, there's 1 blind spot that you have to cover with a pylon. Which is still fine, because on some maps it's way worse. So I kind of like that map in PvT as well. In late game, in PvT, well, it's kind of good. It's hard for Terran to take a 5th, I feel like, on the map. And impossible to take a 6th. If Protoss plays well with Zealot Harass. In PvZ, I used to think all-ins are very strong, but that was because Zergs were horrible at creep spreading, or they just didn't do it for some reason. Now every time I arrive with my all-in, there's like creep at the gold already. I'm like, all right, I guess that was my all-in, boys. Here are your points, and I'm a go. But in macro, I think it's a fine map. I think it's a bit Protoss favor. I think it's quite a good Protoss map in general. I'm not sure what the other guys think of it, but I like it. Maybe it's just my style.
That's super interesting that you say that it is a Protoss map, because
no, like a heavy Protoss map. Just I like it.
Well, you said you thought it was Protoss favored, right?
For my style, I don't know.
Okay. No, well, I mean, I don't disagree. I love playing on this map. I think I actually feel very comfortable here against Zerg, but Zergs in Korea choose this map a lot, so it's just like, it's kind of interesting. It's one of those maps where no one minds playing on it, kind of like Frost, something like that. Okay.
And also, a very important thing is that the map is quite pretty. I think I'm not even kidding, because there's a lot of maps that depress me.
Like Foxtrot, we'll get into that.
If I have to play Foxtrot like 20 or 25 games in a row, like I never want to play StarCraft again. But maps like Star Station, Catalina is quite okay as well. It's beachy, whatever. I think the tile set actually helps a lot by enjoying the map or whatever.
I agree with you there. All right, Morrow, what do you think about Overgrowth?
Well, I think Harstem covered it pretty well. It's a nice looking map. I think TVP is pretty damn balanced since it's so standard. The gold base is not a vocal point at all. I don't see it being an issue, but in general, I think gold bases either are like not a problem or like very much a problem. So I just want gold bases to disappear from StarCraft 2. I don't think it adds anything to the game. I know you were asking about that. Mm-hmm. So, but in TVC, I think it's a good mech map, but it's a bad biomap. But it's fine.
Okay. What do you think, Xena?
I'd also like to address the gold base thing, since personally for me this map is just basically standard except for the gold base. Well, the thing about I don't liking about gold bases, well, it may be a bit more apparent in, well, it's especially apparent in ZVZ. So basically, the way it works is once you have like a lead, once you take the gold base, especially if it's this far out. So on this map, you would take your gold base as like your fourth base in ZVZ, for instance. So you have two people playing ZVZ and they're going Roach versus Roach. The person that takes the lead is going to be the person to take the gold base. So ultimately, it's just going to be somebody who has a lead, like snowballing it with the gold base. It just kind of removes the ability to have a comeback potential. So it really just makes it less interesting when you have the same amount of units and like one person just like gets a bunch more money because they have bigger map control, which like can't be combated because like you have the same units and you're just like ahead, you know? So it kind of just removes comeback potential with the gold base. And that's kind of why I don't really like gold bases in general. It's because they just extend the lead that already exists. Like they don't, it doesn't really, especially on this map, like it just basically makes it so that the other person can't come back.
Yeah, I think I have to agree with you after you say it like that. So far out, you never take it when you're behind. So, what do you think about the map overall, though, aside from the gold base?
In TVT, there's actually a really interesting position. If you can pull up the map again, well, you can put siege tanks like at the third and siege the Terran mineral line at the natural. So that's really annoying to deal with. But I think the Terran player can prevent it as long as they have good vision control. In TVP, it's a pretty small map, so it kind of comes down to having really good engagements on 3-4 base. So you don't really want to drag it out onto a really long base and try to out expand them. You just want to have one really good engagement on 3-4 base. And I don't really mind the map in TVZ because since it's like basically you're going to be pushing one direction and just dropping in the other direction, and it's like very concrete that you do so. So like on this map you would push towards the fourth and you just drop into their main. So it makes it like really easy in terms of base layout to do it that way. And you can just split them up and attack in one direction. So it makes it kind of simple for bio in TVC. And I don't really play mech that often, so I can't really comment on that.
Okay, cool. So overall, you guys really like this map? Is this like a good map to have in the pool? I hear standard thrown around a lot. Let's all remember that once upon a time, Daybreak was considered standard, and every map was modeled after it for like a year. But is this for right now? Is this like a great map that you're happy to have?
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah,
Sure.
Yeah, it's just pretty standard map.
that's pretty non-committal, but okay. We'll go on to the next map here. Let's go ahead and talk about King Sejong Station. I don't have anything like really special to say about this. I personally quite like the map, but what do you guys think? Xenocider, why don't you start?
Well, I think definitely the most interesting part about this map is the rocks at the naturals. So the Terran player in TVZ especially can push up from that angle, or the Protoss player can take the fourth base behind the rocks. So that adds a really weird dynamic because usually the fourth base layout is like really standard, you know, like you take your fourth.
You mean the one in the middle, towards the middle of the map?
Yeah, towards the middle.
Okay. Yeah.
Because the thing about TVZ on this map is that over the other fourth base, first of all, it's really far away from the third base, but also there's kind of like a cliff over the fourth base, which the Terran can kind of use to their advantage if they're attacking into the fourth base. So a lot of Zergs opt to take, well, like a lot of Zergs, I mean, like Snoot, for example, will opt to take the the base behind the rocks to prevent something like that from happening. So I think that's really interesting because on every other map, you're basically just expanding in a linear fashion. And then really late game scenarios in TVZ, we've been seeing a lot of mech, especially from Byong, where you basically split the map in half and then get up to a super good army and then end the game from there. So that also creates kind of interesting games, depending on if you're a Terran or not. So, yeah. It's a pretty interesting map.
Okay. Harstem?
Not a big fan. Miras are
No?
strong, Swarmos are strong. I'm not much of a like Blink Stalker winner in PvT, so the map isn't too good for my PvT either. I think in like Blink Pressure is still being played that much. We haven't seen any Blink all-ins in Korea for a long time. You've seen Parting use some build where he goes up to 8 Stalker, then just goes into like 8-minute Robotics Wave, so he delays it by about a minute, then just goes into standard Blink Colossus. I guess that's a bit stronger on King Sejong, but I haven't really tried it out, to be honest. There's a lot of dead space to cover. You can't really cover it with Observers because there's so much. You have to do it with Probe, Pylon, Zealots. I don't know. I think it's okay in PvT. I think maybe a bit better for Terran than, for example, Overgrowth. I'm not too sure about this map. It just depends on the style that Terran plays as well. I think Maru against Cest was yesterday on this map, or 2 days ago.
I think it was 2 days ago. Yeah. 2 days ago.
Maru just built like 10 medevacs and started dropping like a madman. Started attacking the rocks and stuff like that. I think that's really good on the map when they take down the rocks and just walk up there to open up a new path of attack, because you can't cover every angle with Observers and Spotters. It's just impossible on this map because it's so extremely huge. I think it might be a bit better for Terran than Pros, but I'm not too sure. Like, my win rate is quite good on it against Terran. And in PvP, there's a lot of Blink play, a lot of Oracle into Blink, Proxy Oracle into Blink, because there's so many places you can Blink in behind the natural mineral line and be in like the main mineral line too, with like the 4 Stalker squad. It's like, I think it's a good map to have, but one that I don't like too much.
Okay. Morrow, how about you?
Well, I like the map quite a lot. I have to agree with Harstem. I think it's a good TVP map. I think it's a good TVC map as well, because there's no, like, if you compare to Overgrowth, the 4th base is like in the corner of the map. If you're playing against Zerg and you're playing Bio, so that's a very, very long distance that you have to rally push compared on King Sejong, where they have 2 different 4th bases. But if you really think about it, both of the 4th bases are pretty close for the rally push. If they take the one to like the corners and not the ones behind your rocks, you can kill your own rocks and rally from there. So it becomes quite a good TVC map for Bio, but it's also a very good map to play mech on, I feel, as well. And we see a lot of Koreans playing mech against Zergs on this map as well. So overall, I think it's a good Terran map.
Okay. Overall, you guys really like this map? I think this is a great map to have in the pool. It is very interesting, as you were saying, Xeno. So is this like a really good 2 thumbs up, glad it's still in the pool map? Or is it a meh, I don't really care?
I think it's fine. I think it's fine to have a map like this in the map pool. It's not like extremely good for Terran. After all, that's just my opinion. I know some Zerg players think it's favored for Zerg. So overall, I just think the map is interesting and it's a good map to have.
Okay. Were you saying, Harstem?
Yeah, I think it's an okay map to have. We can't every map can't be Overgrowth, you know. We'll go back to Wings of Liberty with Deadwing.
Yeah, that's for sure. Xenocider?
Yeah, I think the rocks of the 3rd and the interesting 4th base dynamic makes it an A+ for me.
Right. Yeah, I think this is probably my favorite map overall, even though I feel like I've seen almost too many games on it at this point. It is very interesting and very cool. And I love the fact that there's like opinions on both sides. Like, I've definitely heard multiple Zergs say they think it's Zerg favored, multiple Terran say they think it's Terran favored. You know, as you say, Harstem, I don't like PvT here as much, but your win record's good, so I guess that's good.
And Swarmos, when they sit in the middle at their fort, like they take the fort base in the middle, right? They can rally to your 4th, your 5th, and your 6th, containing you on 3 bases, while defending their own 4th, 5th, and 6th. How's that fair, David? How is that fair?
I don't think he has anything to do with map design, but may as well just use them. All right, let's jump into Merry-Go-Round, the last of the old maps. We'll go over this one pretty quick. A couple of the more interesting pieces that that Merry-Go-Round is a little bit different with. First off, a 3-player map. To have the 3-player map in the pool, I thought that was kind of interesting because I know that some of these, like, I remember Whirlwind, you scout in the wrong direction, like especially in PvP or something, you're like, oh, I don't know, whatever. You know, it can be really rough, but 3-player, I feel like it kind of fixes that a little bit. And of course, there's that the wall around the back of the map, which is kind of a new thing where this map isn't exactly a square, and it like really it shows you exactly where your airspace is, which I feel like changes. It's I think it's the first map we've really had like that. So what do you guys think about the map in general and those two topics as well? Morrow, let's start with you.
I'm definitely I like 3-player maps a lot because just like you say, 4-player maps can be quite random. Like StarCraft 2 is very dependent on that you're able to scout your opponent in the early game. In the 4-player maps, that's always such a big issue. And if you force every 4-player map to be cross-position, then it's basically a 2-player map, really. But with the 3-player maps, I think that's like the perfect balance, that you can still scout your opponent, but still have like dynamic positions and so forth. Overall, I think merry-go-round is I like it. I think it's a good map, but I can understand if Protoss players really hate it because the third base is so far away. SV pulls are they never fail. So and against Zerg though, like roach play, the 1/1 roaches or speed roach timings or anything involving roaches is extremely good, and Terran have to play a little bit different on this map, I feel, against Zerg. But I think the map is still kind of balanced in TVC, but I do think it's favored for Terran against Protoss.
Okay. Harstem?
I agree. I'm not a big fan of the map. Against Zerg, it's a 2-base all-in map. Against Terran, it's a 2-base all-in map. And in PvP, it's a map where people sneak around the watchtower and then snipe your turret and recall kind of map. So, in general, not my thing. I've seen a lot of Koreans have good win rates on it, especially in PvZ, because they play. You remember the old Sun 4-gate with only zealots?
Yeah.
Yeah, they've been playing this one, but instead of getting zealots, they'll get stalkers. And because the distances between the bases are so long, it's very easy to snipe off the queens. Then they just follow up with a 2-base all-in, like normally Immortal win, 2 Immortal, either 2 or 4 gas, doesn't really matter, and then they win the game. I've seen Parting do it a few times, I think. Classic? No, wait, not against Sue. He did something else stupid on the map with Phoenixes. But yeah, mainly we see 2-base all-ins in actually every matchup except for PvP. The airspace behind it, I think is very, very cool. It is a way to kind of limit airspace, because otherwise the map would be completely broken. And I don't know. I think it's a nice thing to have something new. I like new things on maps. Like that. And 3-player maps in general, I think, are very cool as well. 4-player maps can be extremely stupid. In PvP, if you 13 scout, you can only get in 2 bases, and then the 3rd base you can scout the natural. But normally you don't really want a 13 scout in PvP, because if the other guy doesn't scout, he's so far ahead in eco. And on 3-player maps you can scout after your gases and still be able to get into both bases if you do it properly. If you scout after the first gas. So that's way better. And against Terran it's the same. You normally 13 scout, but you won't be able to get in the final base against Terran. So you don't know if they're doing a gas first build or a command center first. Because you're just going to see 2 Marines, and if it's command center first, like, they could be hiding a Marine, or if they just micro the one well and it's down the ramp, like, you have no idea. And then you're preparing for a gas field, and it gas first, and it is like a CC first, can be really, really stupid and just outright lose you the game. And it's the same for Terran. If they scout you last and you're doing some dumb 1-base blink all in, yeah, that's no fun.
Okay. And Xenocider.
You know, honestly, the reason why I love this map is because my boy Morrow always finds a way to make 11-11 work every single game in Pro League. It's like, man, I wonder what build Morrow's gonna do this time on merry-go-round versus Zerg. Oh, and it's an 11-11 again. Like, and then they'll go like pull first blind, and then they'll stop the first bunker from going up, and then they'll still lose eventually after that. So, personally, since I've seen like Morrow win like 7 out of 7 games on this map with 11-11, It's been really fun to watch for me. But aside from that, I don't really enjoy the map too much because the thing is when you have really wide open third bases like this, well, I don't like it as a player. I don't know. Some people like might like it as a spectator, but for somebody like me that plays like standard a lot, having a really wide open third allows good timing attacks, especially from Zerg, like Morrow was saying earlier, Roach Hydra. All of these get greater concaves when you have an open third base and you have obviously a lot larger areas to cover. But on the other hand, if every single map was like a closed third base with like, like an easy way to bunker up, then like you wouldn't be able to see players like Violet pull out cool Roach strats, which shouldn't work, but like they do because these maps are really wide open. So I think having maps like this that create like or have wide open thirds really diversify the amount of strategies that people can use. So it's bad for me as a player, but I think not that bad as a spectator.
Okay, fair enough. And there has to be some sort of balance there. Of course, we can't just use maps that players agree are good, or we wouldn't have some fun shit, which we sometimes have. I can't think of one off the top of my head. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about the new maps, what I'm sure everyone is actually waiting for here. Let's start with Catalina. What do you think about this map, Harstem?
Not a big fan.
No?
Not a big fan at all. No.
Why is that?
So much dead space. Mutas are strong. I hate Mutas. With a passion.
I hate Mutas too.
Yeah, it's just mainly Mutas. And drops. Like, it's very hard to control airspace against Terran with observers. And even, like, you can't really put a pylon on the other side of the map because you can't defend it. So every single unit that you put as a spotter will die. Like, there's no way of saving it. Which makes it a bit of a gamble map. We see a lot of blink all-ins or like just blink openers in general are very, very popular, and then hoping that they like catch a drop, which makes the map, I don't know, I don't like it one bit. I don't like gambling. I'm playing live, safe and solid, man. I look twice before crossing the road. I get 3 observers before I start my first Colossus. That's how I play live.
Only
This
3?
map is- Sorry?
Big Baby gets 5 observers.
Well,
Yeah, you're playing so risky.
Good old pig baby.
I guess Pig Baby looks like 5 times as well before crossing the road. Isn't very efficient. That's all I'm saying. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not a. I think the third is fine. Like against Zerg, it's quite a nice map actually, except for that Mutas are extremely strong. But yeah, against Terran I don't like it. In PvP, yeah, it's okay.
Yeah. If anyone figures out a way to play a macro game here, PvT, let me know. I don't think I've won a single game. Xeno, what do you think about Catalina?
Dude, this map is badass, man. This is the only map in the world with a freaking octopus in the middle. Okay, like
I know, right? Why aren't there more octopuses on maps? Seriously.
I know. Well, actually, I'm not really sure if it's an octopus or a squid, but like that's part of
that's
the
an
mystery in the
octopus.
map, you know? Like, oh, okay, well, the
It's
mystery's
definitely
been
not a
solved. But anyways, I actually really like this map, mostly because it's really easy to get Reapers into this map, so you can pretty much guarantee scouting in all matchups, TVZ, TVT, TVP with Reaper openings. So, like, on some maps like Merry-Go-Round, it's really hard to get in a Reaper scout if they're really good at denying your scout because there's not, like, multiple ways to enter into the main base. But, of course, with that also opens up really good Blink play because you can also Blink up the cliffs. But it seems like Blink has become a little bit out of fashion. Like, some people still do it, but it's definitely not as popular as it once was. So, yeah, like, having that extra ability to scout and the wide open thirds, which kind of help in TVP, like you said before, makes me like this map as a Terran.
Okay, cool. Morrow. do you
Well, I think like because you say Reapers are so strong on this map, I think it's actually pushing it too hard, and the rush distances are so extremely close that it actually hurts the matchup in TVT. I feel like TVT plays out the same way as Heavy Rain, that if you go 1 Rex Reaper, you die to 2 Rex Reaper, and if you go 2 Rex Reaper, well, you're kind of good to go against anything. So, like at the end of the day, I think there's just a lot of coin flip in early game with the build orders in TVT. I think it's an issue when Turax Reaper becomes too strong, that it's super fine against, for example, 15 gas. I don't know what you think is Xenocider, but I don't like Reaper Wars very much because sometimes you can get screwed. Like if you don't attack in Reaper Wars and the other guy gets like made a different build where he only has much fewer Reapers than you, then eventually he gets out Hellions and then you're kind of fucked in a macro game. So you have to sort of attack to scout, but at the same time, if you attack in Reaper Wars, then the other player like gets the first shot and he can chase it down because Reapers can kite so well, and when you're jumping up a cliff, you become very slow. So I think that's an issue in TVT with Catalina as well as well, Heavy Rain, like I said earlier. In the other matchups in TVC, however, I like it a lot. Like I think it's a good TVC map. I think it plays out differently than other maps. If you take like King Sejong, it's very good to rally push, but in Catalina the rush distances are quite long. But the dropping is amazing on this map. You might be wondering why. It's because when you drop a base, let's say the 4th base, you can pick up and you can fly to a different base. Like if you drop 7 o'clock, you can pick up and fly to the main base at 9 o'clock. So I think the playstyle in TVC is, at least I think very differently when I'm playing on this map, and it's very refreshing and new to me. And in TVP, I think this is easier to take a 3rd base than on merry-go-round for Protoss players. So I think it's maybe a little bit too early to be, but at the same time, you don't have the like circular dead space.
Yeah.
That compared to merry-go-round, so they should probably fix that. So I can see on the base on the bottom right, for example, there's a lot more dead space than on the base on 9 o'clock, and that must be very frustrating as a Protoss player playing against medevacs. But if they fix that, so it's a circular dead space, then I think the map is quite fine. Maybe they should cut out some area where Reapers can jump up, so it's a little bit easier for 15 gas against Turax Reaper.
Okay. I do like what you're saying about that. Do you think this is a good map or a bad map overall? Do you think it actually needs those changes to make it a good map? Because you seem kind of in between, whereas Harstem doesn't like it and Xeno likes it.
I think it's a good map. I just don't like it.
Oh, okay.
It's fun and it's new and it's not ugly. So
Yeah.
big fan.
That is important.
Well, I think those changes would make the map better, but it's not essential. Like if you want to have a map where Reapers are especially good in TVT and people are coin flipping TVT build orders, like if you want to have a map like that, then then sure. I think the map is fine, and I don't veto it against any race. But again,
Okay.
I'm not a Protoss player, so.
Okay. Good opinions. All right, let's talk about our next map. Let's go ahead and talk about Deadwing. Oh, Deadwing. Thank God they fixed those spawns.
No,
No?
I love those spots.
Oh yeah, they were really fun. I loved that anticlimactic games in DreamHack where the Protoss is right next to the Zerg. Those were fun. So yeah, Deadwing. Your thoughts? Start Morrow.
I played it like once with sort of when they released the test maps, and I hated it, and then I never played it since.
Oh, you just vetoed it right away? Have you seen a lot of games on it, or I guess there haven't been that many games on it, really.
Like I think the problem with Deadwing is very similar to the problem I have with Alter Sim. It's just way too large, and it's random with the positions. But maybe they fixed that. It's only cross now.
No, it's either vertical or cross.
It still seems like too much distance. If you have to scout one base, it's like enough for it to feel random. It's so damn large, and I don't think that plays out well in StarCraft 2 to have like maps this big. But since I played the map almost nothing, I can't have too much of an opinion.
Okay. How about you, Xeno? Do you have much of an opinion on that one?
Well, I haven't vetoed the map, but yeah, of course, in any 4-player map, if you're playing cross positions, especially in TVZ, it's gonna be bad for the Terran. But I think with the Widowmine patch and all that kind of stuff, like I'm not really minding the size of the map anymore. I've realized that it opens up like more playing options in terms of like how the game works out. Like it's not the small maps like Overgrowth where you need to like end the game pretty early on in 3 to 4 base. Like it more becomes like a game of like denying the additional bases for the other player, whether like they have like 7 or they have 3 bases. Like you always want to focus on denying extra bases, so that can kind of create interesting games. Whereas like if you play every single game on like King Sejong, you'll notice like most of the games come down to like 3 to 4 bases, whereas cross positions Deadwing can be like maybe 4 to 5 bases. And they like I know the map creator tried to add something new for Terran. Like they added some cliffs where you can actually drop Marines. It's just above like the 3rd base you would regularly take, and that also creates something interesting. I'm not really sure exactly how much it's used, but
It's removed, isn't it?
it's removed. Well, I mean like the cliff, not the horizontal positions.
No, like the click, you can't drop on it anymore, I think, because
Really?
it was too good. Yeah. I think they removed that with the first patch when they first, like they did something with Deadwing first, and now they did something with Deadwing again. I'm not 100% sure because they don't really use it in PvP, but I think it said something in the patch note about that.
Okay, well in that scenario, like anyways, having a map like this isn't that bad, to be honest. Like just something that's different from everything else in the pool. Just keeps it varied.
Okay. And Harstem, what do you think about Deadwing?
Yeah, now it's better, way better. When it was the 4-player map, alright, let me tell you a story, right? I'm playing my DreamHack Valencia group. I'm 1-1. I lost game 1 against a 3-gate Oracle when I tried to go for a 2-gate Nexus. I'm playing against Velago, Spanish player, not very well known, low GM, right? So I'm getting a bit nervous. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna play it safe. I scouted 13 on this map. Don't get him the first spot. Don't get him the second spot. And the third spot, it takes so long that even if I would arrive, his Stalker would already be out. So I just take the tower with my probe. I think like, all right, just 1-gate expo. Just like be very safe. Have like a probe out to see if there's anything from him coming. Playing it safe. 5-minute 45. I said my hallucination. See that this guy went Nexus first in a PvP. I'm down 20 probes. He has 3 gates. A Forge already spinning because he went Nexus Gate Forge to get earlier upgrades. He's up an upgrade, up 20 probes. And I just sit there in disbelief that this guy had the balls to do on the map that I wanted to 10-gate, 3-gate on. Oh my god. I'm so happy they changed this because this is the reason I hate 4-player maps, because they either do the stupid 10-gate 3-gate and you scout them last, and then like the Zealot is already in your base the moment your probe arrives in his base, especially on Deadwing because the map was huge, and also because of Nexus first. So extremely dumb. Oh my god. And I got kicked out of DreamHack Valencia. My wife left me.
You lost your job?
Lost my job. Life started falling apart, man. Wasn't fun. Yeah, but in general,
all because of Deadwing.
Yeah, Deadwing and Velago, man, never forget him. All right. For real though, I think the map now is quite fine now that they removed the horizontal position as well. In PvZ, there's a little thing that's very nice to abuse. Blinkstalker builds have been very popular, either Oracle into +2 Blinkstalker or just regular +2 Blinkstalker. Have been very, very popular lately. And from the bottom of their natural 3rd base, like the 3rd base that they kind of have to take, you can shoot at their mineral patches, like 4 or 5 patches you can reach with Stalkers, which is very, very strong. I like it a lot. Zergs don't really like it. On the other hand, the map before that is very open, so it's very difficult to get into that position to set it up. It only really was easy when it was horizontal position, but now that is fixed. So I think it's actually a very fun map to play. I guess it really is in favor of Zerg against Terran, and I think when it's like cross position, I think it seems really hard for Terran against Protoss as well, because Protoss is so safe. Terran can't really put any pressure on, even with like earlier medevac builds, like a standard 15 gas Widowmine drop or even gas first Widowmine drop would hit so much later that TOS would have like the one extra unit that they need. But yeah, in general, I think it's a very fun map to play.
Yeah. Okay. So
I kind of would like
I
to
mean-
address one of the points that Kevin made though, because he said like basically on any 4-player map, you're gonna have like the problem where one guy can go either greedy or all in or really safe. Like, there's no real way to like get out ahead unless you like make a really strong decision either way, like either really greedy or really all in. You know, like so that's just gonna be the case on any 4-player map. It's not really like Deadwing per se. So but like you can't really remove 4-player maps from the game because they also create something interesting for like the spectators, like something that's different from just having 100 like Cloud Kingdoms in the map hole, you know? And then that way you'll have different strategies, because otherwise people will just open very safe every single game if every single game is like Cloud Kingdom.
If we have to have a gigantic map in the map pool, I will take this map over Alterzim every single time. Alterzim was a piece of shit. I think this map is way better than that. Does any of you disagree?
Nah, piece of shit.
Nope.
Alterzim.
Yeah.
Piece of shit.
Real piece of
Burn
shit.
in hell, Alterzim. All right.
Man, you're taking it really far.
Yeah.
Hate that
Like the
map.
map maker is watching this and he's like, "Oh shit, Artosis hates me."
Well, let's talk about Nimbus now. Go ahead, jump to that next map. Harstem, your thoughts on Nimbus?
It's an okay map, but it's a 4-player map, and there's an in-base thing, which makes PvP stupid. So again, if you think you're the better player, you'd normally veto this map, in PvP at least. In PvT, I think it's good for Protoss, in the way that SCV pools aren't extremely strong. Early pressure is kind of hard because of the rocks being there. The only thing that isn't perfect is that it's sometimes hard to spot drops coming to your natural. You would ideally need 4 observers to cover everything around your natural. But you can't really afford that, so you'll have 2 observers, and they either patrol or they put them in one position, and you kind of hope for the best. So it can be a little bit tricky in that regard, especially if they're good and they keep on scanning the observers. I think it's difficult to spot for some medevacs. It also is very difficult to get Zealot Harass in on this map, as there's like 2 paths to the third of the Terran, and they're basically always going to be either staying at their third, or they're going to be in the middle at the watchtower with like a Marine, and then they only need like 2 Marines to cover every single path towards their own third, and they can have like a Marine or a Viking and patrol for a Prism. So it feels like Harass is very, very difficult to pull off against Terran. But in general, I still like it against Terran, as it normally goes to a bit of a longer game. Tosses take their third bases a bit earlier. We saw a hero try to bring back the Oracle 3-gate third Nexus into Blink. I think that's quite strong on that map. Also, Zest against Staja on IEM Shenzhen played just standard, got his third base up quite early, because if you have full information and your observers don't get scanned, I think it's quite a good map for Protoss in PvT. And if you survive, Zest unfortunately lost that game because he was playing, I think, the wrong style for that map. He was playing Gasless on the third. I don't think that's good on that specific map. In PvZ, Swarmhosts are very strong. Stork versus Snoot on IEM Shenzhen showed that, I think. As Protoss, you would need to take your opponent's corner bases or your own corner bases, either with a Prism or just like hope that the probe that you're sending there doesn't get scouted. Then it can be okay. Mutas aren't very good. There isn't a lot of dead space near the third. There is some dead space behind the natural. But I think, yeah, it's very strong for Swarm Host. It's quite good for all-ins as well for TOS. It's good to deny fours. It's very easy to deny fours for TOS, actually, because it's quite far from the third. Creep normally doesn't reach it, and there's some areas where you can put like 4 or 3 force fields and you can wall off the Zerg. So, yeah, I would say 3-base all-ins are strong for Protoss in PvZ. And I think late game is good as well in PvT, but like the late game when Terran wants to take a fifth, you can really start harassing. Before that point, I think it's very, very easy for the Terran to defend everything that's coming in. If they have good map control, like Polt would have, with like putting Marines everywhere to spot for prisms. Yeah.
Okay.
And in PvP, it's complete shit. I'm not sure if I already mentioned.
Yeah, no. Agreed on that. Xeno, how about you?
Definitely though, a weird quirk on this map is that you can wall off the top of the ramp with 2 buildings, so you can get a barracks and a supply depot, and that will be enough to do it in TVZ. So that opens up a lot of weird possibilities. Because something interesting on Outer Zeme was that, like, it would be natural to go CC first on that map because it's a really big map and it's 4 players and blah 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 blah. But what people would actually do is they would go 6 pool because they would know you would go CC first and you would have no way to wall off your ramp in time. So on this map, you can actually wall off your ramp with a barracks and a supply depot and then still go CC first and be completely safe versus 6 pool. So that's good. And other than that, I think the 4th base on this map, the 4th bases, are really wide open and kind of hard to take. And if you're going to take one, it's kind of hard to take the other, to be honest. So very rarely will this game or will maps or games on this map like have easy to take 5th bases at the very maximum. So that kind of opens it up to be a lot more aggressive in the mid to late game. And yeah, I guess that's just something interesting about this map. Generally though, I think TVZ, TVT are kind of like 50-50. You have the in-base natural, which I actually really like for Terran, because a lot of times Terran has trouble defending the natural. Like in TVZ, you really have to worry about run-bys with Lings, with Hellions, but on this map, you can just not even make a bunker at your natural and just, or at least at your in-base natural, and then just rally your Hellion straight out, so you don't have to worry about Hellion run-bys. So I think it's an okay map for Terran.
Okay. And Morrow.
Yeah, it's so comfortable to have the expansion in the backdoor against Zerg, because it's so often that you have Ling run-bys and so on. I don't have like any balance complaints on this map. I think expansion in the backdoor works pretty well in StarCraft 2 in Terran matchups. I can imagine it being pretty annoying for Zerg against Protoss players if they have the expansion in the backdoor. At least it would be very annoying in Wings of Liberty. I don't have too much to say about this map. Okay. I think it's a good map. I have to play it more to really figure out like this map looks so different from other maps that I have to play it more to figure out if I like the map or if I don't like the map. But so far, I like the map.
Have all the Zergs thumbs down this map? Because I think I have played here against almost 0 Zergs, like maybe 1 Zerg.
Well, I play.
Have you guys actually played against Zerg much on this?
Yeah, quite a bit.
Yeah.
I guess it's just random then. The one thing I can say is PvT. I've found that I feel like it comes to a head on 3 bases. I feel like. You guys agree on that? Like most of my PvTs do not go to a 4th base for either player on this map.
No, but that's not how it goes in general in StarCraft 2. Like Protoss gets
compared to other maps, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like some percentage of the time you go to a 4th base on, let's say Overgrowth, but here I feel like almost never does this ever happen.
You mean as a Protoss or as a Terran?
Both.
Well, I think that's true, but like I think most PVTs is like you can, if you get to 3 bases, you build your army, you get your upgrades, you get Storm. Then from there, if you're a defensive Protoss player, yes, in general you like defending, like you do Artosis and you do Harstem. So you probably want to take a 4th base and like really want to secure the win. But against most Protoss players that I play against on ladder, they get their upgrades and they use that as a timing attack. So most of my games end with Protoss being on 3 bases, whether I kill them with my SCV pull on my timing, or they kill me on their 3 base Protoss timing. But that's how it plays out for in my games at least. So, but yeah, I have to agree. The 4th base is quite far away, and it can be discouraging to take it. But maybe it's possible.
I think that's changing though. For the last, I agree with you that for a very long time, okay, let's say 3 months ago, we saw a lot of One Forge play from Protoss. One Forge into Quick Storm to stop the SCV pools. But then Teja just kind of made, or I guess there were more players, but it was mainly Teja that I saw do it. They just went like quite quick upgrades, then they would push with 2-1, and Protoss would have to cut their 4th upgrade to stop this push to get enough Templar out. Or at least not get a 2nd Forge. And then Teja would just continue upgrading to 3-2. While Protoss would be behind in 1 or 2 upgrades. And as Protoss, you never really want to be behind in upgrades too far. I think that's not good. I think normally Protoss is ahead in upgrades or at least even. So then they a lot of Protoss players, especially in Korea, started doing 2 Forge. Europe and NA were obviously a little bit slower to adapt. But not just regular 2 Forge like it was played before. Because the reason they stopped playing that was because of SCV pool. They started doing a lot of gasless 3rd. They would not take their 5th and 6th gas until 18 minutes in the game, sometimes even after their 4th base. They would just build 10 or 12 gateways and try to stop the SCV pool with getting 1 or 2 Archons out and then just warping in like 12 Zealots, and as 1 more reinforcements, another 10 or 12 Zealots to stop it. I think at Shenzhen, it was Teja showed once again that this probably is not the correct way to play. If you remember Nimbus against Zest, I already mentioned it earlier. I don't think it's very good on this map in general to play gasless because it's rather easy to stop SCV pool. But Zest stayed gasless for such a long time, and Teja was like, all right, I'm just going to build a 4th command center and I'm never going to attack you. And Zest was stuck with his big army of like 30 or 40 Zealots, 6 or 7 Colossus, and like 10 Stalkers, but no Storm because you can't afford it. He had to go to 3-3 because otherwise he would fall behind in upgrades. And if you can't get Storm, and Teja just walked over with like 12 Ghosts, cloaked them, EMP'd like his complete army, then the Vikings shot down all the Colossus and he had 180 supply left. Zest still had a 4th base, that was nice for him. Warped in 10 more Zealots that died against the Ghost immediately, and Teja just won the game. And it feels like there's been a bit of a, in the last week, 1.5 weeks in Pro League, Protosses have been changing the way they play, going Blink earlier, kind of getting the map control, getting maybe a bit later Colossus, and then taking earlier gases to get earlier Storm or earlier Charge or whatever. So I'm not sure where this started, like my big rant about gasless 3rd, but this is where it ends. Not sure what point I was going to make.
The 4th base. If Protoss should attack on 3 bases, or if he should go to 4 bases.
Thank you. Thanks for reminding me. Let me finish my point properly now. Because of this, normally if Terran wouldn't SCV pool, we would see Protoss attack with either 3-3 or 2-2 upgrades because they would be gasless. So they would need to force an engagement. So we didn't see a lot of 4th bases coming out of Protoss players because they just wanted to attack after, sometimes with a Prism, sometimes with a little bit of Zealot harass. But now I think it will be switching a little bit back to getting later forts, but forts that will actually serve a purpose instead of just getting more minerals for the kind of still 3 base push. Yeah, that was it.
Okay. Something completely unrelated that like I've kind of noticed throughout the discussions tonight that really interests me, because obviously there's so much pro StarCraft on that, you know, everyone watches a different set of games. Like most of us see like a lot of the same stuff, but there's like so much periphery stuff that, you know, there's different things and different players that we watch and different tournaments that we pay more attention to. But anyways, a lot of things that you've explained, you've like kind of pointed towards Teja as the guy that's like showing how it's like different now and showing how to prove it wrong. And I just find that very interesting. Anyways, I guess it's
Well,
time.
I mean, when you're the best player in the world, you kind of just like show how to do it for everybody else. You know, like Tage is the god, dude.
He is that.
Isn't it also
he's very.
that he's like the only player that's at this high level that goes to foreign tournaments. Like we don't see
Yeah.
TY too much at foreign tournaments. Beyond, I don't think he ever went to a foreign tournament in his life.
No.
Like we see a lot of good. Like we see Saxry now showing us how to play Zerg in Europe. We had Hyun MC before, but we never really like. There's no real other Terran except for Teja, I would say, that comes to steal our money. So,
Well, I mean, we sent TY to like DreamHack, and he lost to MC,
to one.
and we sent Byong to IEM Sao Paulo, and he lost to A Bomb.
That is true.
Nobody is Tasia, baby. Let's go. All right, sorry.
Excellent. All right. So after that long Harstem rant, I can't remember. Has everyone sounded off on Nimbus?
Yeah.
Right. Everyone talked about Nimbus, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So it's time. It's time to talk about everyone's favorite map. It's time to talk about Foxtrot Labs. Now, here's what I'm afraid of. That we're going to start talking, everyone's going to be like, I already thumbs it. I mean, I played 2 games. I couldn't do it. Is that what is about to happen? Does anyone not have this thing thumbs down? You don't have it? All right, Harstem, start us off on Foxtrot.
I don't thumbs down maps. Like it's very. Sometimes
It's
you'll
very
find
manly.
like good strategies. Very manly. I actually don't think it's that bad anymore with the cross. It's just a bit of an ugly map. Like I don't like it. It used to hurt my head more with the stupid graphics, but now it's okay. I think just being cross helps a lot actually. There's still quite some dead space, but the one thing against Terran is that it's hard to defend your third because there's this stupid little cliff where the Vikings can just stand and you can't even really see them. And then your Stalkers somehow still have to shoot them down while he's shooting freely at your Colossi while they're walking down like a 2 feet big ramp. You're wondering what your life has come to.
Hold on, so you take the third that's behind the rocks that you have to kill?
Sometimes you have to, because otherwise you have to go to the gold. Imagine if your opponent is left top and you're right bottom, then the only third you can take is either that one or the gold. Isn't it?
This map confuses me every time I look at it.
And the other one is very, very wide open, that you would have to defend the big ramp against SCV pools, but that's so far forward. It feels very stupid to stand there. I guess you have to. Yeah, against Terran, I'm not a very big fan of the map, to be honest. Against Zerg, there's lots of chokes. The third base is very, very difficult for Zerg, just like it is for us. Yeah, it's. I played it a lot, but because now it changed again, I think it actually became a better map. And people that downvoted it before, I think should probably try it again. It's not like, I know a lot of people like to complain about it, but I don't think it's like it's bad, but it's not half as bad as people make it out to be.
Okay.
I don't veto any maps actually, so I get a fair amount of games on basically every map besides this one. Actually, like I've played on so many servers, a lot of games, and I probably have like less than 10 games played on this map, unless people require like custom games or something. So I'm guessing a lot of other people veto it. And it's actually a really funny story because I was playing a tournament last night called the MSI Beat It Qualifiers, and I was playing against Kane, and we were doing vetoes, and he vetoed like Nimbus or something first map, and I vetoed 2 other maps, and I was like, oh man, maybe I should veto Foxtrot because like I've never played on it that much, like I don't have that much practice on it, but I'm like, no, I've never played a series where they don't veto Foxtrot, so I was like, I'm sure he'll veto it as his last veto, and then like he lets it through, and I'm like, all right, well I guess we'll just play a game on it, and then, boom, Roachnitis in my base, and I die. I was really sad. So, yeah. The moral of the story is always veto Foxtrot.
You started your speech with "I never veto maps." Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, but in tournaments, I think that's the best decision.
Okay.
What annoys me about Foxtrot, well, now they fixed the positions. Like it used to be asymmetrical, that in one position you could get a ramp to defend the natural, and the other position you would get a choke that's so far away.
Yeah, how
So
stupid was that?
Yeah, it was so retarded. But maybe I should unveto the map now But still, like in cross position, if you start like if you play top left versus bottom right, the rush distance it's so close, and like the natural, the choke where you have to make a bunker to wall in with supply depots against surge, it's so far away. Like, can you imagine how far away it is?
Yeah.
And the roaches come much quicker than normal. You don't have anything. You have 2 less Hellions than normal probably, and like 1 less Marine, or no possibility of Marauder. You cannot open standard on this map and defend a roach attack like that with a normal bunker wall in with supply depots in the front of the natural. And like, as you might know, I like to just copy builds and not make up my own builds. So I vetoed the map because of that reason. Like, I don't want to play a map where I can't open like my normal fast expand and then knowingly that I would die every time to that roach push. I'm talking about like 2 roach, 2 base with 1 gas. You make like 7 roaches or 7 to 12 roaches, and you just go. And you arrive at like 7 minutes. Except on this map, you come there like 7:40, and 20 seconds is pretty much in StarCraft 2, and it's pretty much. I feel like it's very difficult to hold, and in general, like the natural bases are so weird that, like in StarCraft 2, it doesn't work that you can have the natural bases designed in so strange ways, because the game is balanced around having the natural layouts being in a certain way. Like, if you have too much room to build bunkers, that you need to build bunkers against Protoss in certain positions, like if they can kill the rocks, like with an Immortal all-in, something like that. It's just an example, just to say that natural bases need to have certain rules, and the rush distance need to be at minimum a certain amount. Habitation already is so close and so hard to defend roach pushes, but still you could kind of do it because the ramp was so small and you could wall it off with only 3 supply depots. It was kind of fine, even though the roaches arrived earlier. But on Foxtrot, like, everything just goes against you when it comes to your natural base, and that's the reason why I've vetoed this map. The rest of the map might be fine, but I still think the gold bases are pretty stupid. If you play cross position and you spawn in top left against Surge, you can just take the gold base every time, and that's your you can just rally through the gold base, so it's defended at the same time. And then Surge's 4th base will be in the top right, because there's no fucking way he's gonna take the gold base. There's no way. And if you look at the distance between the gold base at 12 o'clock and the 4th base that's to the top right, it's so close. Like, how is Surge supposed to win at all? It's not possible. So I think this map is terrible.
Very strong opinion there.
At least, like in what I talked about in early game, I think it doesn't work with the natural design. But the rest of the map might be fine. Well,
Okay.
What do you think is Xenocider against rushes and whatnot in the natural?
Yeah, I heard from a lot of Zergs that they really don't like this map because of the all-ins that you can do with Hellbats, because the 3rd base is like so wide open, and like the distance from the natural, like, okay, the problem with Terran on this map is like the bunker positioning from like the actual natural mineral line is really far away, so it's like really hard to pull SCVs, and there's like no ramp, so that makes it like really uncomfortable for Terran. But a lot of Zergs I've been talking to have expressed like a lot of trouble dealing with Hellbat all-ins, because the 3rd base is so wide open and also far away from the natural, so you have to like pull your queens all in different ways. So it's just like, it's a really good map for rushes, basically. But also something I'd like to mention, pointed out to me by my main man Benjamin Baker, is that on this map, since there's like weird spawn positions, like you can kind of enter in the main base with like really weird Reaper positioning. So like Reapers just kind of go in really awkward spots and enter in from awkward angles. So and it kind of varies based on like where you spawn. So it kind of makes the game, or sorry, makes the map really weird sometimes based on how the Reapers work.
So you think it's fine in TVC? You just have to play different, or?
Yeah, I think you just have to play a bit more safe. Maybe open Banshees, or perhaps like go an early tank with your 3cc, and then I think it can be okay.
All right.
Cool. For me, when I look at this map, I feel like the dumb kid in 5th grade that couldn't see the magic eye. You know, like, you know those like weird art things, and you'd have to stare at it and it pops out and everyone sees. Yeah, and there was like one dumb kid in your class that just couldn't. He's like, I don't see the clown with the balloons. I'm that kid when I look at this map. I can't even fucking tell what the high ground is looking at it. It's like it's so weird on my eyes. I don't even know. Yeah, I have some great input on this map. Okay, so we've actually been going for quite a while, and WCS Challenger is about to start, so I don't really want to keep you guys. I'm sure everyone wants to go watch that, so make sure you do turn on that stream. I think that this has been a really great discussion, you guys. Thank you so much for coming on such short notice this week. Let's go ahead and do some shout-outs. Xenocider, why don't we start with you?
Well, I just want to say that I'm preparing to buy my next full year gym membership to work on my gains. So in order to help fund that, if you would like to help me and follow me on my Twitter so I can get that EG dirty money at EG Xeno. Thanks.
Awesome. Harstem.
Like, how can you top this one, man? Like,
No.
just follow me on Twitter as well, I guess. I'm at Fnatic Harstem. God damn it, you know.
Great. Morrow?
And thanks for Artosis, of course, for having me.
Oh, you're too sweet.
Yes, thank you for bringing me on the show. It was a pleasure. You can follow me at prop Morrow BB2. And I want to say thank you to my team, Team Property, who keeps supporting me, which allows me to still be a pro gamer and go to these different events. So shout out to my team as well.
Cool. All right. So, guys, thanks very much for watching. Make sure you check out WCS EU Challenger. And we'll have meta again next week, same time, same place. Thanks once again to these guys for checking it out. And as some of you may have noticed, there's a new little website out there called scdojo.com. That's what my blog used to be at, but it's time to make that into a website at this point. It's for people that actually like StarCraft. If you're like one of those trolls that sits on Reddit and, you know, talks shit on In Control, or like someone that just wants to hear about drama, don't bother going to the site. This is somewhere to actually talk about StarCraft and you know, discuss StarCraft, have actual articles submitted by people. You know, I feel like there needs to be more StarCraft stuff out there. You know, I don't really give a shit if the entire world's population is into LoL and Dota and whatever else. You know, I'm sure that they're like great games and really fun and very deep and whatnot, but I'm really sure that StarCraft is the best game in the entire world. So
Wow.
Kind of wanted to have, you know, a little place to have people that actually want to talk about StarCraft the game, kind of like we do here on Meta. So anyways, go ahead and check that out, and you can submit stuff if you want to like help out on the site or anything like that. If you don't, cool, whatever. So that's it from us, and we will see you next week. Thanks for watching.